All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Deona, and I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more in just a second, but I want to welcome you to the Write Your Way to Wealth webinar. Now, this is kind of like a mixture of a bonus session and a regular scheduled webinar that I had planned to do for the people that follow me. And so I've kind of taken I'm in the middle of teaching a online boot camp, and I'll talk to you guys about that in a second. Um, but so I do these bonus sessions for the people that are in my boot camp, and the bonus sessions just simply give the writers inside of the boot camp, more tools that they can use to take their writing to the next level, and now take their books, because we're in the final stages of getting their books out, published, and out to their people group. So tonight I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things that I have shared with my boot campers, which I think is really fun. And I didn't want to just keep it, to myself, or just keep it inside of the group. I wanted to invite, some of my followers on Facebook, on IG, on Periscope, over to have the conversation about what it means to write your way to wealth, and how do you go about writing your way to wealth. So the sound is working good, and you should be able to see my screen. If you can't hear, you want to check your settings. If you can't see the screen, maybe you want to hop out, come back in. Plan to spend about 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes with me tonight. If you have to hop off, don't worry. We are recording tonight's session. But I'm going to get started. So again, welcome, everybody. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Deona. That's me right there. And you'll see me a little bit later on. I'll turn my camera on during our Q&A. But I'm Deona. I'm a believer, which basically means that my relationship with Christ is very important to me. I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus Christ. And that leads the forefront of every single thing that I do. That has not always been the case. But I thank God for saving me. I thank God for just coming to rescue me, and really helping me to do the great and amazing things that I'm able to do in my life right now. I'm also a mother. I'm just telling you guys, I hopped on a little bit late because I have a 6-year-old son. His name is David. And so I had an opportunity to talk with him tonight. I'm also an entrepreneur. I own a company called the Prophetic Writers Network. And that is just a company. We do a lot of writing development, coaching, things like that, consultations around writing, and really being led by God in your messaging. And so that's kind of our platform, what we do. We help people who are believers that are not believers. I do believe that God is using the Prophetic Writers Network as an evangelistical tool to reach people who are in the secular arenas when it comes to writing. God is opening up doors for me right now through the Prophetic Writers Network to reach people in Hollywood, because I am a writer. I am a prophetic writer. I am a wealthy writer. And so I love what God is doing with that. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about all of that with you at the end. I am an avid traveler. I've been to several countries. I literally have stopped counting after 5. I've been to Dubai. I've been to Germany. I've been to Rome. I've done Jamaica. I've done the Bahamas. I've done Budapest, Hungary, and the list goes on. Again, so you can't even go past that. But I have a passport that is full of some great things, destinations that I've been blessed to visit. I mentioned earlier, I'm a prophetic writer. To me, a prophetic writer, like the basic definition of a prophetic writer, to me is I release timely messages and prophetic words on paper before I verbalize them, right? So that means that God speaks to me either in a dream. He'll give me, I can, be doing something or talking to someone, and he will just drop a message, on my heart, in my spirit, and he will prompt me to write it before I speak it, right? And, depending on the arena that I'm in, or the atmosphere that I'm in, I'll go ahead and probably verbalize the word that God gave me. or the revelation that God gave me. And as a prophetic writer, I don't just do like words of knowledge, words of wisdom, things like that. You know, if you're familiar with the prophetic, that's not just where I'm like not in just that box, but God may say, hey, you know, I need you to write about this topic because this is something that people need to know about. So it may not be necessarily I'm going to give you a prophetic word through writing, but it's prophetic in the act of writing what God has spoken to me. I'm a strategist, which simply means I find the solution, even when it seems possible. So I do that in my business. I do that in my personal life. God has truly created, and He's still developing me as a strategist. I love strategizing. I love looking at the bigger picture and figuring out how can we get to the solution? How can we get to the end game, the finish line? And then I'm a visionary. So I see it before it happens. I'm really good with writing the vision and making it plain. I'm really good with visualizing beyond what my current circumstances are. And that kind of ties back into being a prophetic writer, really seeing it before it happens. And last but not least, I am the creator of the online ebook bootcamp. For those of you that are joining and you're our guest tonight, this is our regular scheduled bonus session for my bootcamp people. But I kind of made some changes, and the bootcamp students, you'll kind of see I've added some things that we kind of gone over already, but I wanted to make this this webinar tonight very fat in its content, if that makes sense. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to talk to you about 8 ways to write your way to wealth, right? And those 8 ways, I'm just going to be honest with you. These 8 ways I actually are very versatile. So God has allowed me to use these 8 ways of writing your way to wealth in my business, in marketing, in strategizing. I mean, the steps that I'm getting ready to go through with you, you can use them in any area. So not just your writing. If you have a business, you can use the 8 different ways for just any area of your life. But tonight we're going to focus on how you can use these 8 areas of product, people, place, position, purpose, presentation, price, and profit to write your way to wealth. Okay. So, before we hop into that, I want to just talk to you real quick about the power in writing. Now, let me know in the chat, how many of you in here are writers? Let me see who's in here, because I now have my bootcamp people in here. But I want to know who is a writer inside of the group tonight. If you are a writer, if you have a book out, if you have a website, you have a blog, let me know in the chat, you know, what have you been writing lately? Or if you have a desire to write. I just want to know who I'm talking to tonight as we are continuing on with the webinar. But writing is so powerful. My mom, I remember she would always say to me, you know, she told me all the time that I operate heavily in faith. And when I would say, well, what do you mean I operate heavily in faith? She would say, well, you know, like you will speak something and it'll happen. But what my mom didn't know was before I verbalized anything, I always wrote it down. So I would have a conversation with her or someone else and say, hey, I'm going to do this, or I desire to do that. But I always wrote it down before I verbalized it, right? So I see you guys are chiming in. Let's see. All right, awesome. So Charmaine says she's writing her first book now. Congratulations. And Sabrina says that she's a writer in training. Sabrina, you are an awesome writer. Sabrina's in my online ebook bootcamp right now. And then Miss Faith Ann says, I want to write. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. You're very welcome. So writing is so powerful. If you don't know where to start when it comes to your writing, because again, we're talking about writing your way to wealth, and that idea was birthed when I would say probably been about 18 months. 18 months ago, I just had this impression to go to the park. And I didn't know why I was going to the park, but like God was like, get up, go to the park. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go to the park. So I go to this park, and it's not a park that's close to my house. It's like far out, probably taking about 30, 40 minutes to get there. But it's a huge park. Like it looks like one of like a national park type of park. And so I remember I parked across the street in like a local shopping mall, and I was like, I'm just gonna walk through. So I'm walking through the park, and I have my backpack on, and I have, you know, a notepad and some pens with me and highlighters. And I remember God saying, you know, stop right here at this gazebo. Like literally, he was like, stop. Like you've reached your destination. So I sat down, and as I began to sit down, you know, I'm thinking I'm going to maybe, I don't know, write down. I think at that time, what was heavily on my mind was like bills that I had and just different things that I needed to do. And so that was at the forefront of my mind. And I'm like, man, you know, I got like more bills than I got money, and I'm traveling a lot. And I'm like, God, these traveling expenses are so like, they're so high. I really don't know how to maneuver through all of this. And I remember God specifically telling me, he was like, he said, you're going to write your way out of poverty. And I was like, huh? Like poverty? And he was like, you're going to write your way out of poverty. And so I kept hearing that. So I wrote that down in my notebook, right? I literally wrote, okay, write your way out of poverty. And then I flipped the page, and he said, you're going to write your way into wealth. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write my way into wealth. And then right after that, God began to download these principles. And some of them I'm going to share with you tonight. But he began to download these principles, how these principles in my spirit about how you have literally every single thing that you need right now. And so no matter what you're doing in your life, if you got a 9 to 5, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're kind of like in between, and you're trying to figure out things like what the next step is for you, you literally have the power to write your way out of any situation. Now, when I say write your way to wealth, I'm not just talking about finances, which that, I mean, that has a lot to do with it, but I'm talking about writing your way into wealth, the peace of wealth, right? Or wealthy peace, meaning that there's an abundance of your peace that you have, that you can literally write your way into your healing. You like that is a symbolic, excuse me, a symbolism of wealth, like having peace, having joy, you know, operating in the fruits of the spirit. You literally can write your way into those areas. Well, how do you do that? So one of the ways that you want to start with writing, like I know many of you kind of are at different stages in your writing process, but writing your testimony, I always say that that is the number one place you want to start. So write your testimony. And you may say like, I'm still walking through some things, you know, I'm like, God is still dealing with me in some things, but I want you to write about where you've come from, write about your childhood, write about, you know, some things that you've overcome, some things that you have experienced, some things that made you sad, some things that made you happy. Like really just begin to write, because writing is a muscle. And so you want to begin to build that muscle, especially if you have been doing more talking than writing, right? Because a lot of times we'll talk about what we're dealing with versus writing it down. But writing things down is so powerful. So going back to my gazebo story. So I'm under this gazebo at the park, and God's telling me, you know, write your way to wealth, write your way out of poverty. And the mandate that God told me during that time was, you're going to write your way to wealth. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, that sounds like good. I had never heard that before. Okay, write my way to wealth, God. What does that mean for me? And he's like, you've been trying to do things that other people are doing, right? So you've been trying to do what's trendy. You've been trying to tap into things that that the world is doing or that other people are doing. And God's like, I've created a lane just for you. He's like, and the way you're going to get there, he said, you're going to write all those books that I put in you, all the messages that are in your spirit, in your heart. Excuse me. He's like, it's time for you to write them. So I began to write. Y'all, excuse me for 1 second. Okay. I had to take a sip of my tea. So I began to write. So one of the ways that you can write your way to wealth is obedience. Okay. So that's going to be number one thing. I hope you're taking notes. I'm trying to lose my voice. What's going on? So obedience, when God tells you to write something, it is so important for you to write it. So that's one of the areas that we're going to definitely be talking about, what it means to be obedient. So I know all of you are probably at different stages in your writing or on the spectrum of writing. All right. I just command my voice to come back right now in the name of Jesus. We'll go back. Okay. So moving right along. So I've explained to you just the power in writing. So when God told me that I was going to write my way out of wealth, he had reminded me of some things that he had dropped in my spirit, years ago to write. And I had procrastinated on them. I was dealing with a lot of fear. And I really didn't want to sit down and go through that process of writing the content he told me to write, because it meant I had to relive the things that I thought at the time I was delivered from. So it was things in my childhood that I had dealt with. It was things, relationally I had dealt with my son's father, my relationship with my parents, just different things that I really didn't want to face at the time. And God was like, no, you got to go back and you have to write that. He's like, not only is it going to heal you, he said, but there's so many people that I've assigned to you in this season that need to hear your testimony, that need to hear how you walk through it. And when you tell that, he's like, you're going to unlock, he's like, you're going to unlock some things in your life that is amazing. He's like, you're literally going to break the yokes of poverty. He's like, and walk into what it really means to be wealthy, and what it means to be wealthy God's way. So not just, I'm rich type of thing. He said, but really having a wealthy life in every area, not just your finances. So in order to write your way to wealth, right, you need to have a product. So you need to have something that you can write. Like, what are you going to write? So we're going to talk about that tonight. So the first way for you to write your way to wealth is having a product. Like, you need to have something to write. Now, I am the ebook guru, the ebook coach. I told you I was the creator of the online ebook bootcamp. So this is going to be from the perspective of the online ebook bootcamp. Okay. And so one of the ways that you can write your way to wealth, and I know, Charmaine, you said you're working on your book, so that's really good. I'm not sure how far you are in the process. Maybe you can chime in the chat and let me know how far you are into the writing process of your book. And then for you, Miss Ann, you said, what did you say? That you want to write. So I want to know, what do you want to write as I'm going through this? Y'all let me know in the chat. So ebooks. Ebooks are really good to start your writing process, to start your journey. And so my students that are in my online ebook bootcamp, they can really attest to this. Your ebook needs to be content that you know very well. So what has God been dealing with you on writing? What is it? Maybe it's your testimony, like I mentioned before. Maybe it's your story. Maybe you know how to do something and you need to start teaching people, walking them through that process. A lot of times the things that we need to write and the things that God has commissioned us to do, it seems very easy to us, and it seems very easy to the point that we are inactive. We don't get into action because we don't think it's significant enough. Like for me, teaching people how to write their books, I'm like, everybody's doing that. I don't need to do that. But God's like, no, there's a way that you teach, because you have a teaching anointing on you. And there's a way that you explain things, and I've called you to activate the writer in people. And so I'm like, okay, God, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So whatever you write about, it needs to be content that you know very well, content that flows. The rule of thumb that I use for my students, I tell them to write a book between 40 to 60 pages, but you can even go as short as 20 pages if it's like a quick informational, or if it's going to be like a series. You can have a ebook, and an ebook is just a digital copy of your book versus having like a paperback or a hardback or an audio version. It's a digital version. You can house it on your website. You can house it on Amazon. You can use a third party file, download like what is it called? Dropbox. You can use something like that to deliver your ebook. So there's different ways that you can do that. Of course, you want your book to be completed. So that means that one of the ways to write your way to wealth is you need to have a product that's completed. It needs to be edited, formatted correctly. You want to have a book cover that sells. That means that when people see it, they're like, "Hey, I gotta get this. I want to buy this from you. That looks really good. It's appealing to the eye, and it's ready to be consumed." So that goes back into it being completed. And you want it to be information that speaks to your audience. Okay, so that's going to be very important. I hope you are taking notes. Hop into the chat. Awesome. Okay. So Charmaine says, I'm a couple of chapters away from the end of this, from the end, and this first book is my testimony. Awesome. Okay. So your people. So as you're writing your book, as you're going through the process of writing, one of the reason why I chose people to be one of the ways for you to write your way into wealth is because when we're talking about, now for this presentation, I'm going to be focusing more so on your finances. So when I say write your way to wealth, it's going to be more so your money, the money that you make. When it comes to writing your book or writing content for a blog, writing a workbook, maybe you're writing, you're a ghostwriter for somebody, depending on, what area you're in. I'm sorry, I'm checking. Okay, my journey, that's what's been before. Testimony of deliverance, struggle, overcame it. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Faith. So making sure you know who your people are, right? Who your people group are. Now, these are the people who you'll sell to. These are the people who are going to help you reach that wealthy status, if you will, as a writer. Now, of course, they're going to pay you. Your buyer is going to pay you. The people that you're assigned to, they're going to pay you. But these are also the people who will begin to do some word of mouth marketing for you in your book. They're going to begin to tell other people about your book. So that's why I say we want to make sure that our product is that is reaching our I call it the VIP reader. So your VIP reader, the person that's going to consume your content, you want to make sure that it's well thought out, that it is fully processed, that people can understand it. And when you do that, then you have people who continue to come to you for products and services. So when you're starting with your book is like that first way to reach people. So you want to know who your buyer is or who your VIP reader, who are you writing the book for? So, what is their age, their location, how much money do they make? What's their occupation? The reason this information is important is because when I'm writing a book for somebody or I'm writing a blog for somebody, I want to think about this. I want to think about who they are, where they are, what are they going through? Because when they read my content, I want them to be able to process it correctly. I don't want it to, if I'm writing a book on how to write your way to wealth, right? Which I have a book coming out called Write Your Way to Wealth. But if I'm telling you how to write your way to wealth, and the reader has a poverty mindset, and they're just, they have a track record of really not, they rather be at the bottom versus be at the top. Well, I need to know that about, my reader. So maybe I need to position my content a little differently, or maybe I need to I need to focus my book and my marketing on a consumer who does not have that type of mindset. So it's important for you to know who your VIP reader is, who your buyer is, who you're going to be selling to, and who you're writing your book for. Okay. So what is the number one thing that they need to know? What industry are they in? What is keeping them up at night? What are they interested in learning? So this is all information that you should be researching. Now, if you're writing a book where you're telling your testimony, even with books that talk about you and your life and what you walk through, there still needs to be a purpose. So you need to have a writing strategy, right? You need to understand that Your testimony is powerful. You overcome by telling your testimony. But what is the end game? At the end of you telling your testimony, like, what does your VIP reader get out of it? What is in it for them to be committed to read your book from cover to cover? What's in it for them? So I want you to think about that. What is the next? Okay. And we're going to talk about that as we continue on with the presentation. Okay, so the next thing is your place. So now that you have, you got your book, you've written your book, you know who you're going to sell it to, where are you going to sell it, right? So where's the place? Where are you going to sell your book? Now, again, I mentioned earlier, you can sell it online. You can do bookstores, retail stores, personal websites. You can have it in a physical retail store. You can have it like at a Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, a local bookshop. But you want to choose a place that complements your financial goals and your audience growth goals, okay? So as you're writing your way to wealth, like, you have done all the hard work of sitting down and coming up with an idea to write about. You've done all the hard work of actually writing out your book. So now you want to make sure that your book is in a place where your people group are going to be able to get it. They're going to be able to experience it. They're going to love it. It's going to be a place where it's easy for them to stay in contact with you. So you don't want to just say, hey, I got my book out and it's out there. Go ahead out there and buy it. And there's a disconnect between you and your buyer. You want to position your book in such a way that you are able to reach back out to your VIP readers. So that means you need to have some systems set up to where every person that purchases your book, you need to have a way to contact them. Okay. So you want to think about that when you place your book somewhere for you to sell it. Okay. All right. So again, we're going to talk about position. So positioning, the timeline phase. So this is when you'll sell. This is so important as well. So as you are working on your book and you're writing your book, right? So where you sell your book and when you sell your book is very, very important. Now, the time that it takes for you to write your book and the time it takes for you to start marketing your book and selling your book, those are two different timelines, okay? A lot of people start marketing their book after they've written their book, or they start marketing their book, or they'll start marketing their book after they finish their book. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you still need to have a timeline. So even if you say, okay, hey, the book is done, it's ready to go, now I'm going to start marketing. Although you will probably want to start marketing your book before, it's okay to market it afterwards if you have a plan and a strategy, a timeline. So your book could be done, let's say today is, March 9th. So if your book is done today, March 9th, and you say, I want to start selling my book April 1st, right? Well, between March 9th and April 1st, that's your timeline. So you need to have a strategy in place to begin to sell your book. So this is so important. In order for you to go from just being like a published author to actually being a wealthy writer, a wealthy author, you need to position yourself, have a timeline, have a strategy to where you're not just, when you position yourself really well, you go beyond just having book sales, right? Because when you position yourself well, a wealthy writer is not somebody that just has, a book out or a website, but they have multiple products, okay? And so when you start with your first book and you position that well, it's easy for you to move into the space of building a business, selling a product, offering a service. So it's so important to get it right the first time, get it done right the first time. So that's why this is the stuff that I teach right now to authors who are writing their books for the very first time. Now, most people will teach this, after you've kind of been writing for a while. I like to teach it from the beginning because then that gives you more leverage to figure out where you want to go with your book. So when you for your timeline, I broke it down into 4 different phases to kind of help you grasp what I mean when I say a timeline. So your timeline, setting a timeline is very critical in tracking and executing your marketing strategy. of your book. So this is, when you'll sell. So the first stage is going to be your invitation phase. Now, this is where you're going to begin to nurture your people group about your product, being the solution to their problem. So even if you're telling your testimony, more than likely you're telling your testimony, you're telling your story, you're sharing your story with people because you want to let people know who are in that same situation that you used to be in, or who are currently walking through the situation that you used to be in, or you were delivered from, that they can get through, that they can, like, there's something on the other side of the mountain, on the other side of this trial and tribulation, you can get through. So in your invitation phase, when it comes to your book, this is when you want to begin to have conversation with the people who are going to purchase your book, right? Your VIP reader or your people group. You need to start engaging with them on social media. You need to engage with them in person. If they're your coworkers, if your VIP reader is your coworker, you need to start having conversation and begin to nurture your coworker about the content that's inside of your book without even mentioning that you're going to have a book or that you have a book out. Okay. So this is the invitation phase where you begin to talk about things, like you begin to talk about what's in your book without telling people that you have a book. Now, this is very strategic. And when you do this and you do it right, it'll help because people get used to you having that conversation. So when you say, hey, my book is ready, my book is out, by the way, I have a book on this topic, it makes so much more sense to them. And people are quick to move and purchase your book, right? Resulting in you getting closer to being a wealthy writer. So the second, excuse me. I think I deleted the other one. I'm sorry. So anyway, the first phase is the invitation phase. The second phase is going to be the release phase. So before your book is released, one of the things you want to do is continue to have the invitation conversation with them, or the nurturing conversation with them. And then you let them know that, hey, my book is released. My book is ready to go. Now, once your book is released, now this is for your timeline. So I hope you're taking notes. When your book is released, once you told them about your book, you released your book, now you need to have a call to action. At the end of the day, yes, it's being recorded. So I'll send you, if you're not on my email list, what you can do is send me a message on social media, however you found me. So if it was on Facebook or Instagram, you can send me, just send me a DM with your email and I'll make sure you get this information if you're not inside the bootcamp. So going back to this. So after the invitation phase, you continue to nurture your audience, but now you need to let them know, like, hey, your pre-sale phase is going to be when you let them know that your book is out. Hey, my book is out, or my book is getting ready to come out on such and such date. Pre-sales are now available. This is where you begin to get pre-sales. Once your book is released, you've got your pre-sales, people are actually able to get your book. The next step is going to be the follow-up phase. The follow-up phase is very important, and this is where a lot of people drop the ball. And when they drop the ball, they stay in the zone of just being a published author versus being a wealthy writer or a book entrepreneur, right? In the follow-up, this is where you say, you follow up with the people who purchased your book. Hey, you purchased my book, Write Your Way to Wealth. I'm doing an event, in your city or close to you. I would love for you to come out and, it's going to be a 2-day event. We're going to talk about, different ways to tap into different streams of income through the vehicle of writing, right? So in the follow-up, this is where you're able to promote your other products and services to the people who bought your book initially, okay? So, but you need to set a timeline for all of this. When what are the dates I'm going to do the invitation phase? What are the dates I'm going to do the release? Like, when is my book going to be released? When am I going to do the pre-sale? When am I going to follow up with people? You need to have all that written out and structured so that okay, on this date, this is what I'm working on. On that day, I'm working on this. When you have these systems set up and you have that structure and you have that strategy, then you're able to, again, it's like a it's like a machine that constantly needs to be oiled and it needs to be fueled. And in order to be a wealthy writer and not just be a one-hit wonder, like I put my book out back 5 years ago and that was it, I wrote a book. But if you really want to build a business around this, you know, you want to have all of these set up. When you get in the habit of building out a timeline and a strategy for anything you put out. So even if it's not a book, if you're writing, you know, a magazine, if you're going to be doing a course online, whatever it is that you need to write, you need to have a timeline. Okay. So one of the things I want you to do, I want you to do this exercise, and you don't have to do it right now, but you can screenshot this or you can write it down. And I want you to do this exercise. So this is my purposeful writing for beginners. So I want you to write 1 to 2 pages on the following 2 prompts. Okay, I want you to do both of them. And the first one is going to be, how can you help someone solve a problem? And the second one is going to be, how can you prevent someone from doing something, how can you prevent someone from doing, I should say something, from doing something by sharing your testimony. So if your testimony is that you were delivered from being promiscuous, how can you prevent somebody from being promiscuous by sharing your testimony, right? Like what part of your testimony do you need to share? And or how would you explain that to them in your writing? I want you to do this because as you're working on writing your book, or if you're working on writing any type of content, I really want you to be focused in on like really being purposeful in your writing. It makes the writing process so much easier. And my gosh, when you're writing stuff that you love, when you write stuff that's healing and touching to your soul and that's meaningful to you, it's so easy for like the money will come, like God will make way for doors to open, for income to just pour into your life. You won't have to be worrying about when you are able to be God's pen, right? When God's able to use you, when he's able to speak to you and say, hey, I need you to write this, and you listen, the floodgates of heaven will be open unto you. Okay. So I want you to practice being a purposeful writer. And when you write, I don't want you to write, because it's not just about you. It's about how God can use you as the vessel, your story, your experiences to reach other people. And so I want you to think about that. I'm pulling up one of my favorite scriptures, and I want to read it to you verbatim. And it's out of Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah 30, verse 1 through 2. And I'm going to read it out the Message Bible. And it says, this is a message Jeremiah received from God. God's message, the God of Israel. Write everything I tell you in a book. My God, that's good. Now I'm going to read it in King James for you. It says, the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, thus speaketh the Lord God of Israel, saying, write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. Now that's King James Version and Message. Okay. So I really do believe that God has called for prophetic writers to like rise up in this hour. Like this has been, I think I want to say the last 8 months, I have been working with different prophetic writers, and I've just seen some amazing things. Like people have been able to walk into areas in their writing that they haven't been able to do before, or they found out that they are a writer and they didn't even know that they were a writer. Like, hey, I didn't know I could write this, or like this has been on my heart to write, and then they begin to write it. But when God has put a message in your heart and your spirit and your soul, if you're dreaming about certain content, you need to write it. Like that is a mandate. That's not an option. That's not if you feel like it when you get around to it. It's no, God has said, write the words that I have spoken unto you, that he spoke to you through a prophetic word, through somebody else. He spoke to you in a dream. He spoke to you just from you reading your word. He said, write down the words that I've spoken unto you into a book. And so I just want to say, if you're watching this webinar, if you're watching the replay and you have not written a book, you have not been obedient in your writing, this is the time for you to do it. Repent and then get started. Now it's time to get started. And when you do, I promise you, you won't have to worry about bills. I promise you that you won't have to worry about like the things that have been like very minute and bothersome to you lately. when you are obedient to what God has said, when you are serious about your Father's business, he can get serious about your business, your finances, the things that concern you, your health, things like that. But a lot of times we keep ourselves from receiving like the abundance that God has for us because of our disobedience, right? Case in point. So God has been speaking to me about writing this Bible study. It's a Bible study and then the content for Write Your Way to Wealth. And I was like, well, God, I got so much going on. I got the boot camp that I'm doing and I'm doing this. And God's like, no, like the things you've been praying for won't be released until you're obedient and you write what I told you to write. So y'all know what I did? I called my mom and I said, hey, Mom, I got to go away on a writer's getaway this weekend. Can you watch my son? And she said, yep, I can watch him. So I packed my son's stuff up. I packed my stuff up. I got on the road. I drove about 2.5 hours to the nearest beach because I'm here in California. And I'm like, I got me a room by the water and I'm here and I'll be checking out on Monday, but I'll be writing because I understand the importance of writing, doing what God has said. Other authors and that's for a blog. Awesome. That is so good, Charmaine. She said she was asked to do a radio interview for May. That is amazing. Yeah, I have so many testimonies about, I remember like a lot of my speaking engagements that I have received. I remember in the beginning, they were coming before my book was even out. Like before the book was out, I had opportunities coming. So even as you begin to do the process of writing out your manuscript, you'll start to see the doors of opportunity that open for you. It is amazing. Amen. God told her to write 3 years ago, and now she's finally doing it. Hey, girl, you get on it and you don't stop, you continue. So I want you guys to do that exercise. That is so important. And we're going to move along. So the next step in writing your way to wealth is your presentation. Now, this is good because this deals with how you'll sell and deliver your book. Okay. So, of course, social media is going to be one of the number one places that you're going to sell and deliver your book. So sell means like to promote your book, let people know that your book is available. So all your social media accounts though need to be set for the release date of your product, of your book, right? Now in person, you can sell your book, deliver your book at events. You can be a vendor and at events. You can do it for churches, businesses, things like that. The quickest way, like to offer your book, to deliver your book, to let people know about your book, is to go live, post on social media, engage inside of groups on social media, email your list. And if you don't have a list, I'll walk you through kind of what that looks like when we start talking about your systems. And then you want to contact your friends, your family, and your network and let them know. You also want to establish brand and product ambassadors. So again, you're not just going to be selling your book to your friends and your families and your coworkers, but you want to actually have product ambassadors who will be affiliates for you. So these will people who know you, who are familiar with what you are writing about. Maybe they had an opportunity to preview your book, and so they're going to begin to tell the people that they know about your book. And then the final thing is you want to activate your seamless systems. That's going to be so important. When you activate your seamless system, it will make the selling and delivery process so much easier. So I'm sure you're probably like, Deona, what is a seamless system? Don't worry, I got you covered. So this is what I call the seamless system. This is where you have your website, your email capturer, your payment processor, your automation software, and your content. Okay, you have all those things together. Now, on your website, you of course, you want to purchase a domain. You want to have a functional website, and you want to have your offer on your website. And your offer is going to be your book. And maybe another offer you can, like a bonus you can add on, is if they purchase your book, they get a free workbook, or they purchase your book, they get a free consultation with you. So you have some type of offer that makes people want to say, hey, I want to buy this right now. This makes sense to me. And then also you want to have a website copy campaign. So you need to have copy on your website. That means you need to have proper descriptions on your website. You need to have your author bio on your website, your about page. Like when people go through your website and they're looking at who you are, what you do, it should make sense to them. They shouldn't have to try to figure it out or like scratch their head and say, well, what does she really do? And I'm a little confused. Okay, I see the book and I see this, but like, I need an understanding of what it is that she or he offers. So your website copy campaign needs to be on point. Now, your email capture, this is where you have your email copy campaign. So you need to actually, before you set like up your email system, or while you're setting up your email system, you need to have emails that are actually written out for people who buy your book. So let's say you have your ebook available on your website as well as Amazon. But if it's available on your website, when somebody goes to your website, they go to yourbook.com, whatever the book name is, or yourname.com, and they purchase your ebook, they need to automatically, for one, they should be able to download your book right then and there. They should receive an email confirmation that they purchased your book with another opportunity to download the book, right? And then you can put a limit on this as well, how many times they are able to download your book. So there's ways for you to do that as well. And that goes into your automation software. But then they also need to get a sequence, right? So this is the campaign, your email campaign. They need to get a sequence of emails from you. So the first one needs to be the confirmation email. The second one needs to be within 24 to 48 hours, where you're telling people, you're sending an email saying, hey, thank you for purchasing the book. I'm curious to know, how far are you in the book? Or what's your favorite part in the book? Or what was your first aha moment? And then maybe 5 days later, hey, how's it coming along? Maybe you could share with them, one of my favorite parts in the book in chapter 3 is where I talk about such and such. And what did you think about this? Respond to the email and let me know if this resonated with you. Now, this is how you create engagement with your audience. This is how you go beyond from just being a published author to being somebody who's engaged with their community, engaged with their VIP reader. And this is where people begin to like you, know you, trust you, and they respect your brand. Because believe me, when your book is out, you have a brand, like you have birthed a brand. So you need to have your email capture and your email copy campaign set up. The next step is going to be how you will be paid, okay? So the checkout process should be quick and easy. Payment processor. I need to be able to go to your website, click, enter my credit card information, enter my address, or whatever. If it's a digital product, enter my email address and get my product right away, right? So it should be seamless. I shouldn't have to do this and do that and, all this other stuff. It should be really quick and easy for your people. And then, of course, you need to have your automation software. So this will be how you deliver your digital products, how your products will be accessed, and again, this needs to be quick and fast. Okay, we live in a world now where people, like, their attention span is very, very limited. And I'm moving right along because I know we are pressed for time. So, content strategy. You need to have a strategy to your content. So once you have all of these components set up in your seamless system and everything is working and it's a properly oiled machine, your content, how you are marketing to, excuse me, y'all. Got to turn my Bluetooth speaker off. Okay. So how you need to have a strategy for your content. So your content will tie back into your email campaign. So you need to create content that converts, sells, and makes you money. Okay. So you need to have content. That's going to be very, very important. Content is queen or king. All right. So this is what the seamless system looks like. You need to have all of this together for your book, and really for any product or service that you have out. This should be this is like the basics of being an online entrepreneur or an online author. Okay. So now we're going to talk about price. How much should you charge for your book? So if your goal is to be a wealthy writer, like you want to solely live on or live off of a big portion of the money that you make off your book, then you need to make sure you're pricing it correctly. You need to make sure that there's a profit margin for you, okay? So this is how you become a wealthy writer. Once you have written your content, you've written your book, written your blog, you have written out maybe your script, your movie script. Maybe you want to start writing scripts for movies and TV shows. Once you have written all that stuff out and you've been promoting it, and you have your timeline strategy, and you know who you're going to be selling to, you know where you're going to be selling it, and you have all that stuff in place, right? Now we need to figure out, how much are we going to charge? What are we charging people? So again, we're talking about books because that is going to be the foundation. Even if you want to go into coaching, speaking, teaching, your book is going to be a great foundational point for you to start at. So how much do we charge for our books? Well, here's the price formula. So you need to figure out what it's going to cost you to produce your book. So this is going to include trainings and consultations, right? So if you're in the online ebook boot camp, you know, there's a fee to be in the boot camp. So you want to include that when you think about charging for your book. You want to include that. What was your investment to be inside of the training? What was, if you purchase a consultation, how much did you spend on the consultation? Your graphic designers, how much did you spend on graphic designers for your book cover? An editor, what did you spend on an editor? Did you need a virtual assistant to help you if you had to do some research or do some organizing? If that was an expense for you, you need to figure that out. Your time, how much are you going to pay yourself? How much are you charging yourself to write your book? That you need to figure that out. Any online software that you need to deliver your book, right? That seamless system that I was talking about, your website, your automation software, how much is your subscription to those services? You need to figure that out. And then shipping costs. So let's say, although we're talking about ebooks here, but if you decide to not just have an ebook, but have a paperback book, how much does it cost for you to ship your book out or to ship any bonus merchandise out to your people, right? All of this needs to be included in your pricing. So I'm not going to tell you what to charge. For me, I just have a flat rate that I charge for my books and my ebooks. And that's just me. It just works out. I just, sometimes I can charge less. Sometimes I may need to up it up a little bit more, but I just have a price that I start. That's my baseline. And I try not to go under that. But I'm like, this is the minimum that I'm going to charge for my book. So you need to figure out what your baseline is. But I do want to warn you, like, don't price your product or your book based off of what other people in the industry charges. That is like a big no-no. When it comes to your books, you don't have to test out the competition, right? Because this is your content. This is your intellectual property. It's not an appropriate space or industry for you to be looking at the next person and figuring out how much they charge, okay? Because they may have maybe they're somebody who specializes in editing and doing graphic design, right? So for most of these costs to produce expenses, for me, because this is what I do, I don't have really that many expenses when it comes to producing my ebook. So if I charge $25 for my ebook and you're like, oh, well, Deona charges $25, so I'm gonna charge $25. But you got to remember, I don't have that much like expenses to produce what I do, because I have a system that has been working for a very long time. Whereas you may have to charge more you may have to pay more for a graphic designer or an editor. But if you have a house editor like me, then that kind of is included in my monthly expenses. So you want to figure out what works for you. Don't worry about nobody else. And do not pick a price for your book because you feel like, oh, well, I would really like to charge $25, but I'm gonna just charge $10 because I don't think nobody's gonna pay $25 for my book. That is a lie from the pits of hell. And that type of mentality will keep you away from being a wealthy writer. So you choose the price that works for you. And I want to just challenge you to pick a price that challenges you and makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Okay. So if you were saying, oh, I'm going to charge $15 for my book, charge $18. Like just up it just a little bit. Just charge $18 or $20. right? So if you are putting out quality content, people will pay literally whatever. Like I paid for ebooks $50 and it was like a 10-page ebook, but the content was good, right? And I respected the person who put the information out there. And so it was information that I needed for what I was currently working on. So and if you're putting out testimony based type of content, then you want to make sure that there's a point, like what's in that book and that content for your reader. If you're sharing your testimony with me, what is the point? Are you trying to get me not to make that same mistake, get me to prevent from going down that road? There needs to be a call to action at the end of your book. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Now we're going to talk about profit. This is the good stuff. So once you figure out what your price is going to be for your book, now you need to figure out how much you want to profit. How much, like what is being a wealthy writer? What does being wealthy mean to you, right? So what is that? What does your book need to make on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis for you to feel like you're walking towards being wealthy, to where you can leave your 9 to 5, you can just go on the road full time and begin to do public speaking and promote your book. Like, what does that look like for you? So I'm going to show you an example. You figure out how much you want to profit, right? How much do you want to profit monthly for your book? So in this example, and you can screenshot this and kind of study it later, but I'm gonna run through it kind of quickly because I'm so over my time, y'all. I'm sorry. So what you'll make, so after you've made your initial investment back, which is your cost to produce, I said produce, with your cost to produce. Now it's time for you to set your financial goals. Okay, so for the profit formula, the simple 2 formulas we're going to use is the number of units that you're going to sell, so the number of books times the price. Okay, so how much you're going to charge for your book, that's going to equal your total product sales. Now, then I want you to figure out what did it cost you to produce that book minus your product sales, and that's going to equal your profit. So here's an example of what that looks like. If you want to if your goal to profit is $1,000, let's say you want to make $1,000 a month from your book, and based off of all your expenses that it costs you maybe about $2 to produce your book, right? Your ebook, your print book, it costs you $2 to produce your book, and you're going to charge $12 for your book. Well, in order for you to reach that $1,000 profit goal, you need to sell at least 100 books. So 100 units times $12 equals $1,200. And then you're going to take that 100 units times $2, your cost of production, to figure out what your production cost is. So it costs you $200 to produce 100 units of books. So then you're going to come down, you're going to take $1,200, which is how much you made total off of selling 100 books, and you're going to minus what it costs you to produce it, and that's going to equal your $1,000 in profit. Okay, so it's real simple, easy math. Play around with the numbers to figure out how many books do you need to sell, and then you can break it down. So if I know, okay, for the month I need to sell, if my book was $12, I know I need to sell 100 books for the month to get to $1,000, right? Well, how many books is that? I take 100 books divided by 2, right? That's 50 books every 2 weeks, or every week I need to sell 25 books, right? Well, if you only want to promote your book Monday through Friday, well, then that means every day, every week, a Monday through Friday, you need to sell 5 books, right? At $12. That's going to help you get to your goal. Well, what does that look like? If you go back to all the things that we've talked about, the 8 ways of becoming a wealthy writer, well, positioning yourself, having a timeline, educating and nurturing it during the invitation phase, like educating your audience on the content of your book. It's real easy for you to get online or go live on social media and say, hey, talk about your book, talk about chapter 1, talk about chapter 2, and sell 5 books, right, to make your quota for the day. And you sell 5 books, you can go live literally for like 10 minutes and tell people where to buy your book, And now this profit formula, only works on having your book on your website. If you have your book on Amazon, your profit margin is going to be a lot lower because Amazon charges they charge a fee and you get paid a royalty. But when you have your book on your own website, this formula that I laid out for you, it does apply to you because you recuperate 100% of your royalties minus your cost to produce your book. Okay. All right. So we are at the end of our presentation. Now, I do want to let you guys know what I'm kind of up to now and what I have going on for the second quarter going into the third quarter. So I hope you enjoyed this. Chime in the chat and let me know if this was helpful for you, if it was valuable for you. I know my bootcamp people, you guys have kind of seen this information before, but it's always good to go back and revisit the information. And of course, we had guests tonight. So if you are ready to be a wealthy writer, if you're ready to write your way to wealth, I want you to let me know in the chat. Hey, Deona, yes, I'm ready to be a wealthy writer. Awesome, Sabrina. I'm glad it was valuable. Like, let me know in the chat if you're ready to be a wealthy writer. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm so glad that it helped. Great. I love what I do and I love giving. And I know I need to do this a lot more. And so I love teaching this content. I want everybody to win, and I don't want to be the only one winning. I want everybody to win. So if you got value out of everything that I've laid out for you tonight, I do want to make a couple of invitations tonight. So if you're ready to be a wealthy writer, I want to let you know about the next online ebook bootcamp that I have coming up. And that's going to begin April 8th through May 27th. And it's going to be 8 weeks. And this bootcamp, the theme, I try to do themes for each of my bootcamps. This bootcamp theme is going to be prophetic writer. So it's going to be for anybody. You don't have to be a prophetic writer to be in the boot camp, but my bonuses for this boot camp is going to be geared toward cultivating the prophetic writer in you and how you really are able to use that to fuel you into what God has called you to do. So our sessions for this boot camp is going to be on Mondays from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then after class, we have a 30-minute Q&A session. Sometimes we go a little bit longer. But the very first week we'll have our orientation week, and during that orientation time, we're going to be talking about developing your manuscript idea. Module 1 is going to deal with create your idea outline. Module 2 will be build your writing strategy. Module 3 is when you'll actually be working on writing your book. So this is where you'll write your manuscript. Module 4 will be dealing with editing and formatting your manuscript. So I'm going to show you how to edit and format your manuscript. Module 5 is going to be ebook covers that sell. This is going to walk you through the process of creating an ebook for you, for your VIP reader, and something that's very attractive and very relevant to your content. And then module 6 is going to be self-publishing made easy. Okay, so that's going to be the good stuff. And actually tomorrow night, this current cycle of the bootcamp, we're on module 6 tomorrow night. So we have our classes on Sundays, and we'll be finishing up this cycle of the bootcamp. So I wanted to let you know, for those of you, because I've been getting DMs and people are like, hey, are you doing bootcamp again? I will be doing it again, and it's going to start April 8th. Okay. Now, for the online bootcamp right now, registration is open. We opened registration yesterday. And so if you want to get in, if you get in before, by the end of March, you can get in for the early bird of $497. Okay, so the early bird for the ebook bootcamp is $497. We do have a payment plan that I'm very flexible on that, because again, while this is my business, it also is my ministry. And so I want to make sure that I'm serving people to the highest ability that God would allow me to do so. So I don't discount my prices unless I'm doing like an early bird regular special. But I am flexible with, the payment time. So don't feel like, oh, I want to get in, but I don't know. Like, reach out to me. We'll work something out. Okay. The next thing is, for those of you who are in the boot camp, or if you're already working on a book and or you already have a book that's out, I have something that's going to be coming up, which is really cool, where I'm going to teach you how to turn your book into a business. So if you want to do speaking, coaching, mentoring, teaching, you want to get started with keynote address, you want to, coach people to get to the point of their breakthrough, or if you just want to create a curriculum from your book that you can teach online or in person, you definitely want to sign up for the Book Business Bootcamp. So the Book Business Bootcamp is 4 weeks, and this starts June 1st through the 29th. Our classes will be on Saturday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And in the Book Business Bootcamp, I'm going to show you how to develop your seamless system, okay? I'm going to show you how to create your email campaign strategy, your website copy strategy. We're going to talk about social media content strategies, a pricing strategy to where people are, it's an easy yes for them, right? And a pricing strategy doesn't necessarily mean that it's cheap, but it means that it's priced based off of the value that you deliver, okay? And then we're going to talk about time strategy. So when you are developing content from your book, or you're creating a business from the content in your book, I'm going to show you how, if you have your timeline mapped out properly, you can, like, when you launch certain things within your business based off of the content from your book, you really can excel in a really, really great way. So I'm going to go through all of that with you. I'm actually going to be, our Saturday sessions is when we will have our teaching sessions. But depending, once we get started, and I'll kind of talk to everybody that's inside of that boot camp, we'll figure out which days we're going to have our live workshop days, where we'll hop on Zoom and I'll walk you through certain things. So if you have a question about how to connect your email to your website, like your email capture system to your website, or how to create the automation for your systems, I'll walk you through how to do that during our work session. So we'll have our workshop sessions where we'll be able to walk through that. So this is going to be very hands-on. This is my beta version of Book Business Bootcamp. Now, I have taught the curriculum inside of Book Business one-on-one with my clients, but I haven't done it in a group setting, which is why you're able to get it at the price that it is right now. So this, actually, the value on this is $1,997. But because this is the first time I'm going to be teaching it in a group setting, I wanted to make sure that that I left room for people to, for one, take advantage of this opportunity of the inaugural launch of this, but also I didn't want you to break the bank. Still want to make sure that, the value is there for your investment, but I don't want it to break the bank for you. So the early bird for this right now is $797. Okay. So the regular is $997. Early bird is $797. And again, we do have payment plans. Now, if you're inside of the eBook Bootcamp, or you're an alumni of the eBook Bootcamp, you of course are going to get a better deal, because you're already a student, you already work with me, my teaching style, and so your price is $497. And of course we have payment plans. And for the eBook Bootcamp members, you can pay weekly, because we already just kind of have a rapport, and it'll break down to $42 a week. Okay, so if you're not in the eBook Bootcamp and you're like, hey, I want to get the $497 price, or I'm interested in the Book Business Bootcamp, if you decide to hop into the eBook Bootcamp, then of course you'll get the $497 price. But because you were here tonight, if you enroll by Monday and you're not a part of the online eBook Bootcamp, and you want to get inside of the Book Business Bootcamp, where you learn how to create a business from your book, I'm going to offer the $497 price to you, but that's only good until Monday. So it'll be Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So noon on Monday, that price expires for people who are not inside the boot camp. So because you sat through this webinar and you've been rocking with me, if you're interested in getting inside of the Book Business Bootcamp, all these boot camps, y'all, I want to definitely honor your time and offer that to you. And then again, you have payment plan options as well. Okay. Now, the last thing, well, I got a couple things that I want to share with you, but those are the two important things that I wanted to get out because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. Now, the next thing is, if you want to work on maturing your writing, right? So if you're like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready to write a book, or I don't know if I want to create a business. I created this. Now, this is something that God's been dealing with me on creating, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be obedient and I'm gonna release this. So if you're ready to mature in your writing, I want to invite you to be a part of the Prophetic Writers course. Now, I'm excited about this because, y'all, I told y'all from the beginning, I'm a prophetic writer. I love what I do. And writing and just being a believer. Like, when you bring those two things together, it's an amazing experience. So I'm excited about all the content that I teach, like all the classes that I teach, but the Prophetic Writers course, I'm not going to lie to y'all. This is one that I'm excited about teaching. Like, I am bubbling up inside. I'm excited about this course. So this course begins April 9th through April 30th. It'll be 4 weeks. And it'll be on Tuesdays, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, one of the things that I want to do for the Prophetic Writers course, because I now have East Coast people I have a lot of East Coast clients. I have a lot of clients who are in different parts of the world. So they're on just different time zones. I haven't figured it out just yet, but I am going to offer this class. It'll still be on Tuesdays, but I'm going to offer 2 sessions. So I'm going to offer the 9 p.m. session for the West Coast people and the Central Standard people. But I'm also going to offer this course a little bit earlier. So it'll probably be Tuesday at noon. But again, I'm working that out. So if you're interested in this and you're like, I want to get in, but it's kind of too late, don't worry. I am figuring out. It'll be between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when I teach that first session. And it'll be the same day, okay? Let me see. 12 noon, I am Israel. Okay, Sabrina, I got you. So yeah, I did think about that because I know a lot of my classes I host really late, and my East Coast clients, they're like, hey, like, it's late over here. So I will be doing that. Let me make a note of that so I can update this in my system. So 12 p.m. So it'll still be on Tuesdays, but it will be at 12 p.m. Now, this course, we're going to be talking about identifying if you're a prophetic writer, right? And even if you go through this course and you're like, I don't think I'm a prophetic writer, which I believe that everybody is a prophetic writer. I really do. I do believe that there's different levels and different dimensions of being a prophetic writer. And the more you cultivate that, like, the higher you'll go. So I do believe that's just my personal belief, and God hasn't told me that that's not the truth yet. So I'm gonna go with that because God hasn't said no. He hasn't denied that thought process. But I do believe that everybody is a prophetic writer. I do believe that there's a season for certain writers to be activated. So we're going to talk about that, identifying if you're a prophetic writer and identifying the level you are on when it comes to prophetic writing prophetically. We're going to learn how and when God speaks to you regarding your writing. This is good because over the last couple of months, I've talked to different prophetic writers. I've helped activate prophetic writers who didn't even know they were prophetic writers. And one of the common themes is that there's a certain time of day that prophetic writers, they write, right? And there's a certain time of day that God begins to speak to you regarding your writing. And it's amazing. And when you can pinpoint that time, like, God will speak to you all the time, but there's like a sweet spot and I call that the crushing time, where God will begin to speak to you about certain things. And I'm telling you, if you're available and you're willing and your heart is open for God to speak to you during that time, it's an amazing encounter with God. And so I'm looking forward to, actually, when I get off of here, it's my crushing time. It's my time to spend with God, for him to speak to me. He's already been speaking to me as I've been doing this webinar tonight. And so I'm excited. I really am. We're going to talk about the writer's crushing, which is the process of separating you from from your normal writing experience. So when when you go through the writer's crushing process, that's where, because anybody can write, anybody can sit down and write. But when you are called to be a prophetic writer, there's a crushing process that happens, and it literally is, it's the same way how an olive oil is crushed, and it's an olive, is crushed to turn into olive oil. There's a separation that happens from the oil and the water inside of the olive. There's a separation that happens. That oil needs to be housed, and there's a process for that. And so the same thing happens when it comes to your writing. People just think like, oh, writing is not as simple or as non-relevant or like a non-factor that some people kind of approach it as. It is really a spiritual process it's amazing if you're able to use it to the best of your ability. Okay, so we're going to identify your crushing time. So when is the time that God begins to put you through that crushing process? And then we're going to talk about ministering in your writing and what you should be writing right now. So what should you be writing on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a seasonal basis? At the end of a season, going into the next season, when you're a prophetic writer, there are some things that you have to release. And I want to say this for those of you who are listening and you're catching the replay. When you're getting ready, like when the seasons change and you feel like you're going into another season and like you're carrying things from the last season, or you really didn't achieve the things you wanted to achieve in the last season, you feel like there's kind of some stagnation there. I want you to consider the fact that when you're called to be a prophetic writer, and God has, like he said in Jeremiah 30, verse 1-2, he's called you to write down everything he spoke to you in a book, right? Or whatever it is you're called to write, and you don't do that, there's a blockage that happens. The same way in our bodies when we eat stuff, and we eat processed foods and stuff that's not good for us. There's a blockage that happens in our intestines. It may cause us to be stopped up, constipated. There's different things that happen with our bowels. The same thing that happens in your spirit. When God's called you to release something, and you don't do it, you are spiritually backed up, okay? You're spiritually backed up. And so if you've been praying, fasting, and hoping for things to be released in your life, and you're like, it's not happening, does God hear me? I want you to consider that there's probably there's a crushing that needs to happen to your spirit, to the process of you writing, and there's things that you have to be released, that you have to release, that can only be released in your writing. Now, when I got this revelation, I laughed at myself because I said, it's not that serious, God. It's not that serious that I'm not able to access this because I didn't write this, or I didn't get up at 5 a.m. like you told me to write down my dream, or I didn't, it's not that serious. It's not that big of a deal. But hear me, when I had that thought process of it's not a big idea, God took me to Jeremiah 31-2, and he said, I commanded you. Like, this is a commandment. I told Jeremiah, right, to write down every single thing that I have spoken unto you. What have I told you to do? You need to write it down and put it in the book. It's not about you, but it's about your obedience. And when you are disobedient to God, there is a blockage that happens. Okay. So I just wanted to share that revelation to you. So if you've been noticing, like if you're a writer, you're a writer, or you feel like it's time for you to write, you've gotten prophetic words about how you're supposed to produce books and different content, and you haven't done so, I want you to consider that your disobedience could be hindering what God really wants to do in your life and how he wants to use you. So that's a warning, but it's also encouragement for you to just get in action. And if you're like, okay, that's me, I haven't been obedient, simply repent and get to work. Like literally repent and get to work. So for the prophetic writers course, the early bird is $497. and that's open to the public. It's $497. If you're in the boot camp, again, you do get a discount, so you get to save more on that. It's $297 for you, and then we can do weekly payments, or you can do 2 payments. Okay, so you can do weekly payments of $80 a week, or you can do 2 payments, 2 monthly payments of $155. Yeah. And so if you are not in the boot camp, and again, you want to get into the prophetic writers course, I'm going to give you the same discount that I give my alumni and my boot camp members, $297. That price expires on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Okay. So the last thing I want to share with you is that I thought I had another. Nope, that's it. Okay. Well, I guess I didn't put it on here, but the other thing that I have coming up, I don't even know the date, so that's probably why I didn't put it on here. When is that? I do have another, my last boot camp that I have coming up. If you are interested in writing a script for TV, for a movie, or for a stage play, right, and you want to know what the process is of writing that, I do have my Write the Script boot camp coming up. When is that? Okay, so the Write the Script Bootcamp is going to be June 2nd. That's a Tuesday. So if you're inside of which one is? So if you're inside of here it is. How did I skip this? It's here. Anyway, so here's book business. If you want to learn how to turn your book into a script, a script for TV, film, or stage, then I want you to consider signing up for Write the Script Bootcamp. I don't know how I skipped this, y'all. My bad. So this one is going to be on Saturdays. Is that a Saturday? That's not right. That's why I'm confused. I'm sorry, y'all. These dates are not right. What day is June? No, June 1st is a Saturday. Anyways, I don't know what I said before, because I thought I skipped over this, but maybe I didn't. But if you're interested in writing a script for TV, for the stage, things like that, if you want to turn your book into a script, or if you have a different concept for a script, I'm going to be hosting a script bootcamp. Okay, so Write the Script Bootcamp. Now, this is 8 weeks long, and we're going to go through the entire process. My experience for writing scripts, I've written scripts for short films. I've written scripts for the stage. I've written movie scripts, and so I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of scripts that I wrote, and my content was sold to, what was his name? Don Okolo. He's kind of like the who do I want to compare him to? He's really big for Nollywood, so like the Nigerian Hollywood or whatever. He does a lot of films. He takes a lot of the books that he's written and he turns them into films. And so he took one of I did a stage play called The Red Pump Murder when I was in college, and he took that and turned it into he was like, I want to turn it into a movie. And so we wrote the script for film. So when you write a stage play and you write a script for like a short film or a sitcom, that process is different. The storyline can be the same. How you develop your idea is the same, but the way you structure it is different. The way you write in your scenes, all of that is very different. And so I'm going to show you the different ways to do that. I'm actually going to go through the process of showing you how to write, how to turn your idea into a script for the stage, for TV, and for theaters. Okay, so for film. So I'm going to show you all 3 different ways to do that. So if you are interested in this, and I'm going to have some special guests as well that are in the industry right now who are working in Hollywood. They're working in, I have a lot of friends that are producers, that are writers for a lot of your favorite TV shows. So I'm going to be partnering with them to teach this. So I'm happy about that. So we're going to go through the develop your script idea. We're going to show you how to create characters that matter. We're going to teach you how to write functional scenes that captivate your audience. And then I'm going to talk about protecting your work because that's so important and so much more. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff in that 8 weeks that we are together. And so it's obviously it's not June 1st through the 29th. How did this get on here? I don't know. Let me get y'all the right dates because that's not right. So the correct date for this is June 2nd. Okay, so the Write the Script Bootcamp is 8 weeks long and it starts June 2nd through July 23rd. And the classes are on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. through 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we'll do a Q&A from 9 p.m. to 9:30. So classes is for the Write the Script, the class is 2 hours. It's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. I got the wrong date on here. But Write the Script Bootcamp does start on June 2nd, which is a Tuesday, through July 23rd. And we'll meet every Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, the cool thing about this, at the end of the Write the Script Bootcamp, we will be doing Write the Script live in Los Angeles. So we are going to have it'll be a 2-day event. So the regular will be a 2-day event. And then you have an option of coming in for the VIP day as well for that, where you can get some like in-person feedback from your script and just some other amazing things that we're going to be doing. So if you want to write this date down, just kind of save the date, and you'll be seeing me do more promotion for this as we get into April, because we're securing a venue right now in LA. But the Write the Script live in Los Angeles is going to be August 1st through the 3rd. And that is a Thursday? I probably should have this down. I'm sorry, y'all. So that's a Thursday through Saturday. So Thursday and Friday will be the regular, and then on the Saturday session will be for the VIP people. So you could stay a day more if you want to do that. But if you're interested in Write the Script Bootcamp, registration for that is open as well. If you're not on my email list, reach out to me and give me your email. Let me know what you're interested in so I can give you that link to register. Okay, so that is it. I have kept y'all way past the time. Do we have any questions? Any questions? I can bring you on. I can unmute you if you have any questions. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions and I will unmute you.